Okay, so this week we are working on the muscular system. For this discussion in particular, we are focusing on the neuromuscular junction, steps in muscle contraction, and muscle metabolism. So I'm going to go into what the neuromuscular junction is. So this is a functional connection between the distal end of a nerve fiber and the middle of a muscle fiber. So one motor neuron or nerve cell may stimulate a few muscle cells or hundreds of them depending on the particular muscle and the work that it does. One neuron and all the skeletal muscle cells it stimulates are a motor unit. When a long thread-like extension of the neuron called the nerve fiber or axon reaches the muscle, it branches into a number of axon terminals, each of which forms junctions with the sarcolemma of a different muscle. These junctions are called neuromuscular junctions, literally nerve muscle. Although the nerve endings and the muscle cell's membranes are very close, they never touch. The gap between them, the synaptic cleft, is filled with tissue fluid. So I'm going to go into the steps of muscle contraction. So the first part, it starts with a nerve impulse that is sent down a nerve fiber. It arrives at the synaptic knob, which stimulates the knob to open its calcium channels and allows the calcium to enter via diffusion. Calcium stimulates the vesicles to release ACH via exocytosis. ACH leaves the synaptic knob and diffuses across the synaptic cleft and binds to the receptors on the ACH, or on the sarcolemma of the muscle fiber. Binding of ACH causes an action potential. This action potential spreads in a wave-like motion along the sarcolemma and through the T-tubules. So this next step is where the filaments start their process. So the action potential in the T-tubule stimulates the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release calcium, and it diffuses into the sarcoplasm. Calcium binds to the troponin, which causes the tropomyosin to shift and expose its binding sites. So here's a little cartoon. So ATP is broken down into ADP and phosphate to provide energy for myosin to cock its head. This is done with the aid of myosin adenosine triphosphate. The myosin binds to the actin to form a cross bridge or a connection between the myosin and the head of the actin. Once the cross bridge is formed, the myosin can then shift its head and pull the actin forward. This is referred to as a power stroke. So after the power stroke, myosin binds to another ATP and starts the cross bridge power stroke process all over again. So side note, as mentioned in the lecture, when myosin is released to form another cross bridge, it does not, the actin does not slide back to its original location because there are numerous myosin heads at different stages of the process. So there are others that are releasing and reshifting while others are in the cross bridge position. So lastly, we're going to go into muscle metabolism. So chemical reactions are needed to produce energy. The energy supply is ATP or adenosine triphosphate. The primary source of energy is glucose. This is used as a means of synthesizing the ATP in the presence or absence of oxygen. There are a few types, but we're just going to go over anaerobic and aerobic. So anaerobic fermentation is when there is no oxygen present. So the pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid, and then it's released. So this is a form of short-term energy, and it produces 2 ATP for every 1 glucose. So now we're going to go into aerobic respiration. So this is with the presence of oxygen. So this occurs in the mitochondria. It requires molecules of 2 oxygen atoms. The pyruvic acid is sent into a series of chemical reactions to produce a large amount of ATP. This is considered long-term energy, and it produces 36 ATP for every 1 glucose.